He took out loans in my name while telling me we were struggling. The first letter came on a Tuesday. It looked official. White envelope, bank logo, my full legal name printed perfectly. I almost threw it away. We had been struggling for months, according to my husband. Cash flow issues, he would say, temporary setback, just a rough patch. I believed him, because marriage is built on trust, and trust makes you lazy with questions. When I opened the envelope, I expected a routine statement. Instead, I saw numbers that didn't make sense. Outstanding balance, $48,732.16. My stomach tightened. We didn't have a loan that large, not in my name, not that I knew of. The account number was unfamiliar. The credit line had been opened 8 months ago. 8 months. That was around the time Daniel started saying money was tight. I waited until he got home. I placed the letter on the kitchen counter, calmly. "What is this?" I asked. He barely looked at it. "Oh, that's probably an error." An error. Almost $50,000 in my name. "Call them," I said. "I will," he replied. He didn't. 2 days later, another letter arrived. Different bank, different logo, same name, mine. Balance, $21,904. My hand started shaking. I logged into my credit report for the first time in years, and that's when the floor dropped beneath me. 3 personal loans, 2 credit cards, 1 line of credit, all opened within the past year, all under my social security number, all tied to my address, all signed with my name. I never signed anything, at least not knowingly. That realization felt worse than betrayal, because it meant something calculated, something deliberate. When I confronted Daniel again, he changed tone. "It's temporary," he said. "I was going to fix it. It's under control." "Why is it in my name?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer immediately. "We needed better rates," he said finally. "So you forged my signature." "It's not forging if we're married." That sentence told me everything. Marriage doesn't equal permission. Marriage doesn't equal ownership. Marriage doesn't equal access to someone's identity. But in his mind, it did. I checked the digital signatures. They looked disturbingly real, because they were copies of mine. From mortgage documents, from tax forms, from contracts I had signed years ago. He had access to all of them. He had studied my signature and recreated it. The part that hurt the most wasn't the debt, it was the manipulation. For months he told me we had to cut back. No vacations, no upgrades, no new furniture. "We need to save," he insisted. Meanwhile, he had been borrowing in my name. I started looking deeper. Bank transfers, large withdrawals, cash advances. Where had the money gone? It wasn't in our accounts. It wasn't paying bills. It wasn't reducing debt. It was disappearing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, replaying conversations. The time he insisted I freeze my spending. The time he said my shopping habits were hurting us. The way he made me feel guilty for ordering takeout. He was creating a narrative that I was financially irresponsible while he was committing financial fraud. The next morning, I called one of the banks directly. "I didn't authorize this loan," I said. The representative paused. "Ma'am, we have documentation. Send it to me." They did. When I opened the file, I saw my name, my address, my social, and a scanned signature that looked like mine. But something was off. The spacing, the pressure, the rhythm. It was imitation. I asked the bank one question. "Where was this signed?" "Electronically," she replied. "From your home IP address." My chest tightened. From my home, while I was at work, while I was visiting my mother, while I was anywhere but there. He had used my identity from our house, from our internet. I confronted him that evening, this time not calmly. "You committed fraud." His face hardened. "Don't use dramatic words. Fraud is dramatic." He tried a different tactic. "It was for us." "Where is it?" I asked. Silence. Because the money wasn't for us, it was for him. And that was the moment something inside me shifted. This wasn't financial mismanagement. This was identity theft inside my own marriage. Where the money really went. The first real crack didn't come from Daniel. It came from a transaction history. I printed everything: loan disbursement dates, transfer timestamps, account routing numbers. And one thing became very clear. The money never entered our joint account. Not once. Every loan was transferred within hours of approval to a separate account, an account I didn't recognize. When I confronted him, again, I didn't ask if he did it. I asked something else. "What is the account ending in 4821? He blinked, just for a second, and that second told me it was real. "It's nothing," he said too quickly. "Nothing. $48,000 is never nothing." That night, after he fell asleep, I checked our shared file cabinet. Daniel was always organized, too organized: tax folders, insurance binders, business receipts, and tucked inside a thin gray folder labeled consulting was a debit card. Not ours. Different bank, different logo, different name. His name, only his. The next morning, I called the bank listed on that card. I pretended to verify a deposit. They confirmed the account existed. They confirmed recent large transfers. They confirmed something that made my stomach drop. "Would you like to confirm the authorized user?" "Yes," I said. "There are 2 names on the account." My pulse started pounding. Daniel Carter and Melissa Vaughn. Melissa. I didn't know a Melissa. At least I didn't think I did. When Daniel came home, I didn't yell. I asked one simple question. "Who is Melissa?" He froze, and that was the first honest reaction I'd seen in days. "It's not what you think," he said. That sentence is universal, and it's always a lie. Melissa wasn't just a random name. She was a business partner. That's what he claimed. She helped me start something. "What something?" I asked. He hesitated. "An investment opportunity. Using my identity." Silence. Over the next hour, the truth started leaking out in fragments. He had met Melissa at a networking event. She pitched a high-return short-term investment, real estate flips, private lending, fast growth. He didn't have enough capital, so he used mine, without telling me, because, in his words, you would have said no. Yes, I would have said no because that's what consent means. But the deeper truth was worse. Melissa wasn't just a partner. She was someone he was seeing, not officially, not openly, but frequently. Dinner meetings, weekend conferences, late-night calls. The money funded both the investment and the lifestyle. Restaurants, trips, apartment rent, apartment. Yes, he finally admitted. There's a lease, paid from the account funded by loans in my name. I felt something inside me go cold. Not rage, not tears, clarity. You didn't just take loans, I said quietly. You built a second life. He tried to defend it. It wasn't serious. It was temporary. I was going to close everything before you noticed. Before I noticed. That sentence repeated in my head. He never planned to confess. He planned to finish the game quietly. I checked the timeline again. 8 months ago, first loan. 7 months ago, second transfer. 6 months ago, apartment lease signed. 5 months ago, he told me we needed to tighten spending. He was financing another woman while making me feel guilty for buying groceries. The psychological cruelty of that realization hurt more than the debt. He didn't just steal money. He rewrote our reality. He made me doubt myself. You're overspending. You don't understand finances. You're too emotional. All while he was committing fraud. The final blow came when I asked about repayment. Are you paying any of this back? He looked away. Some of the investments had failed. Some of the money was gone. Some of it was tied up. Which meant one thing. I was legally responsible. Not him. Me. Because the loans were in my name. That night, I ran my credit again. It had dropped over 120 points. Late payments were beginning to appear. He hadn't even been consistent. He wasn't just reckless, he was sloppy. I realized something terrifying. If I didn't act fast, I could face lawsuits, wage garnishment, asset seizure, long-term credit damage for something I never agreed to. When I told him I was calling a lawyer, he panicked. Don't do that. Why? We can handle this privately. Privately, that word again. Everything he destroyed lived in private. And that's when I made the decision. This wasn't a marriage problem. It was a legal one. And I was done protecting him. When it became a crime, the lawyer didn't look shocked. That bothered me. It meant she had seen this before. Identity theft inside marriage, financial manipulation between spouses, fraud disguised as family decisions. She flipped through the loan documents slowly. These signatures are digitally reproduced, she said. So it's forgery? I asked. It's fraud, she corrected calmly, and potentially criminal. The word criminal echoed differently in my head, not betrayal, not affair, not mistake. Criminal. She explained my options clearly. File a police report for identity theft, dispute the loans formally with documentation, freeze all joint financial access, file for divorce immediately. Each option felt like detonating something, but doing nothing felt worse. If I report it, I asked quietly, what happens to him? She didn't soften her tone. He faces investigation and possibly charges. That night, Daniel tried a new tactic. Fear. You'll ruin my life. I stared at him. You ruined mine first. He paced across the living room. You're overreacting. Overreacting. To $70,000 in fraudulent loans, to a secret apartment, to another woman funded by my stolen identity. I realized something important in that moment. Men like Daniel depend on doubt. If you hesitate, they survive. If you question yourself, they win. The next morning, I froze every joint account, removed him from shared credit access, changed passwords, changed security questions, changed everything. He came home furious. You had no right. No, I corrected calmly. You had no right. 2 days later, I filed the police report. Sitting in that station felt surreal. Are you sure you want to press this? The officer asked. I thought about it carefully. Yes, because silence protects abusers. Documentation protects victims. When the banks received the fraud dispute, things moved quickly. They requested handwriting verification, IP address logs, device authentication data. And that's when Daniel made his final mistake. He had applied for one of the loans using his own laptop, logged into our home Wi-Fi from a device registered in his name. Digital footprints don't lie. Melissa tried calling me once. I didn't answer. Then she texted, "This is getting out of control." Out of control. As if I was the one escalating, as if I had opened loans in her name. I finally replied with one sentence, "You were spending money that wasn't yours." She never responded again. The investigation expanded beyond just my loans, because once fraud is documented, banks look deeper. There were irregularities, transfers that didn't match investment claims, misrepresentations, possible securities violations. Daniel hadn't just gambled. He had lied to institutions, and institutions don't forgive easily. The day he received notice of formal investigation, he looked smaller, not angry, not defensive, small. "You didn't have to go this far," he whispered. I looked at him carefully. "You went this far when you signed my name." Silence. Divorce papers were filed the same week, not emotionally, strategically. Because the longer I stayed legally connected, the more risk I carried. The judge granted temporary financial separation, which meant something critical. His future debts would not attach to me. For the first time in court, months, I felt a thin layer of relief, not happiness, relief. Friends started hearing rumors. Some believed his version at first. She's being dramatic. It was just business. Until documentation surfaced, court records are public, fraud investigations are serious, and once the word identity theft appears, people stop minimizing. Daniel tried one last plea. Please drop the criminal part. Why? I'll fix the debt. With what money? I asked quietly. The apartment lease had been terminated. Melissa had distanced herself. The investment opportunity had collapsed. The illusion had dissolved. The scariest part wasn't losing him. It was realizing how easily he justified everything. In his mind, he had borrowed, invested, planned to repay. But intention doesn't erase action, and action leaves consequences. When the bank finally removed 2 of the loans from my liability pending investigation, I cried for the first time. Not because I missed him, because I felt validated, because the system acknowledged I hadn't consented, because I wasn't crazy. Daniel moved out fully after receiving legal notice. No dramatic goodbye, no apology, just a suitcase and a quiet hallway. He looked at me once before leaving. I never thought you'd turn against me. That sentence will stay with me forever. Turn against him. As if protecting myself was betrayal. He didn't just steal money, he stole stability, trust, peace. But he didn't steal my clarity. And clarity is dangerous to manipulators. The cost of a second life. Court doesn't feel dramatic, it feels procedural. Paper, schedules, voices that don't raise. Judges who don't care about feelings, only facts. And facts were finally on my side. The forensic signature analysis confirmed what I already knew. The digital signatures were traced to Daniel's device, his login credentials, his home workstation. The banks officially classified 2 of the loans as fraudulent. They were removed from my liability. The third remained under investigation because funds had been partially repaid. That detail mattered because it showed intent, not accident, intent. Daniel's attorney tried to argue it was marital financial decision-making. The judge didn't entertain that. Consent must be documented, she said firmly, and it wasn't. There is something deeply validating about hearing a judge say what you've been screaming inside your own head. The criminal investigation didn't end in prison. It ended in settlement. Daniel agreed to structured repayment, financial penalties, probation terms. His record would carry the charge, not dramatic, but permanent. And permanent consequences change a man more than temporary anger ever will. Melissa disappeared from the picture quickly. People who thrive in borrowed money rarely stay when debt becomes real. The apartment lease ended. The investment partnership dissolved. The calls stopped. It turned out the relationship had been exciting while funded, less so when audited. Affairs built on adrenaline collapse under accountability. Divorce finalized quietly. No dramatic custody battle. No screaming in hallways. Just signatures. The house was sold. Assets divided. Debts allocated correctly. For the first time in a year, my name was legally clean. That mattered more than I expected, because financial violation leaves a psychological scar. Every time my phone buzzed with a banking alert, I felt panic. It took months before that anxiety faded. Daniel tried once more after everything was signed, after everything was finalized. I made mistakes, he said. Mistakes. Forgetting milk is a mistake. Signing someone's identity to $70,000 in loans is strategy. I thought I could fix it before you noticed, he admitted. That sentence was the most honest thing he ever said. He never planned. Small recovery felt powerful because its small recovery felt powerful because it was mine, earned, clean. I realized something important through all of it. Financial betrayal is different from emotional betrayal. Emotional betrayal hurts your heart. Financial betrayal destabilizes your life. It affects housing, employment, security, future opportunities. He didn't just risk my trust, he risked my future. Friends who once doubted me came back quietly. Documentation changes narratives. People believe paperwork faster than tears. Some apologized, some didn't. It didn't matter anymore, because I no longer needed validation from anyone except myself. Months later, I ran into Daniel unexpectedly. He looked older, not physically broken, just worn down. Consequences have weight, and he was carrying them. "I never thought you'd go that far," he said again. And I finally understood something clearly. He thought I would absorb it. He thought I would protect him. He thought marriage meant ownership. He miscalculated. The truth is simple. He didn't lose me because he took loans. He lost me because he believed he had the right to. That belief is what destroyed everything. Today, my credit is stable. My accounts are mine alone. My signatures are secure. And my peace is intact. That matters more than marriage ever did. Sometimes people ask if I regret reporting him. No, because silence would have cost me more. And protecting someone who harms you is not loyalty. It's self-destruction. He built a second life using my name. It collapsed under its own lies, and when it didn't take me with it. That's the difference between victim and survivor. One absorbs damage, the other draws a line. He thought I would never notice. He thought I would never act. He thought I would never fight back. He was wrong.